Hi, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make the first section of the granny square. In a previous video I showed you the interior, the popcorn interior, and it has 16 popcorns, and we will be working between each popcorn where there is a chain 2, which means there will be a total of 16 sections to the first round of the granny square. I'll flip through the different colors. These are 6-inch. The yarn is Stylecraft Special DK, and I used a 4mm hook. There is no rule to how many colors you use. For instance, this one, I only used one color for the outer edge. And I even have one somewhere, who knows where it is, where I used this one here, where I used 3 colors for the outer edge. You could change color every row if you wanted to. You could make it bigger, you could make it smaller. Because I tend to warp as my squares increase, I wouldn't go any bigger without turning my work over for every row, which I haven't done in this case. In this case, I'm actually working only on one side. But generally when I make granny squares, I will turn each row, and that will avoid it warping. You put those aside. Let's just keep one as an example. Take this one over here. Here is my inner circle, worked in a previous video. And we are going to be doing 2 rows. So let's get started. I'm using a yellow. I will be working in real time. So if you work faster than me, then just pause the video when you get to the end of the row. Let me catch up. There we go. To start off with, I make a slip knot. I put the long section in the front and the small section at the back. I'll be zooming in now. So I put the long section in the front and the small section in the back, turn it around my finger. It's not a beginner's guide to crochet, this is just to show you how to do the slip knot. I'm assuming that you know how to crochet. Bring through the slip knot. It is the short end that will close and open the slip knot. This is important because after I've started the row, if I feel that this stitch here is a bit loose on the work, I can close it by using the tail. We are working into the gaps created by the chain 2, and there are 16 of them. So that means mathematically we have, zoom out again, whoops. Mathematically we have 4 corners and 4 sides. So it's divided by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is one section, and that will be repeated all the way around. I start with the double crochet here. Now in some of the squares I've put double crochet here, and some of them, I will show you here. You can barely see the difference. The red doesn't show well in the video, unfortunately. This is a half double crochet, north, south, east and west, or north, south, east and west, yeah. And these are double crochets, north, south, east and west. There's barely any difference. I'll be showing you how to do the half double crochet. This one's a full double. This is a full double crochet. I'll be doing the half. These ones in the corner are trebles. There are 2 here and there are 2 there, made into the same space. And there's a chain 2. There are no other chains anywhere else. And for the first row there's chain 2. All the other rows I have chained 1. You can decide what you like. Give it a try. If you want to put 2 chains in the corner and you feel more comfortable with that, you'll soon find out, because we all have different tensions the way we work corners. I try and pull my stitches as tight as possible in the corners so that they don't flare out. I change the angle of my needle and everything, and that is why I do not chain 2. I just don't want my corners to gape. So let's get started after that little ramble. Pull this tight, and here we go. Go into chain 2 space. I pull up the yarn. I hold the needle like that just to make sure that it's not a small, I don't want it to be a small stitch. I want it to be a generous stitch. I pull it through both tails in the back and I chain 1. That is my first double crochet. Wrap the yarn, I go through. You can catch the tail or you can leave the tail loose. I tend to leave it loose, but it doesn't really matter. Another double crochet. I do not make the third one. When I come back at the end of the row, the third one will be tucked in there. And that means that this first stitch will then lie between 2 double crochets. It's just my personal preference. Now I will start my first corner. It's a treble. Just wrap 2. These are US terms. 1. I work under tension. I'm pulling the yarn both here and on here. I don't want these to be long floppy stitches. Wrap twice. I actually do not like trebles, but sometimes they are called for. Chain 2. I do not pull my chains tight, but I do not leave them gaping either. Wrap it and make that American treble. Wrap them twice and another American treble. So the corner is basically 2, 2, 2. 2 trebles, 2 chains, 2 trebles. I'm going to go into the next chain 2 space from the previous row, and we're going to make double crochet US terms, and there will be 3 in there. Here you can either make 3 double crochets or you can make half double crochets, which I'm going to be doing, which means you wrap once, you go through and you pull the yarn through all 3. Wrap once, go and fetch that yarn, now fetch it again, pull through all 3. There's 3 in there. Go into the next space, 2 double crochets, next space, and not next space, continue until you've got 3 double crochets in that space. That is now, we won't count those, but these ones here, that is your pattern, and you'll be repeating that all the way around. trebles, nice and tight. See, my hook goes all the way down, chain 2, treble, sorry if you're British, it'll be quite annoying because stitches are called differently. The UK is there in the US. Now we're doing the half, pull through all 3, wrap, fetch the yarn, pull all 3, wrap, fetch the yarn, pull all 3. Three more double crochets, and we're back at a corner. Treble, under tension, treble, under tension, chain 2, treble, under tension, treble, under tension, 3 double crochets, half, whoops, pull through all 3, pull through all 3, double. The first row is fiddly, but I actually quite enjoyed it, except for those corners, but they have to be done. Treble, under tension, treble, under tension, 2 chains, whoops, treble, under tension, treble, under tension, 1, 2, 3. We're coming into the home run, the end of this row. So the last cluster here, or group, I shouldn't call it cluster, the last group are half double crochets, pull through all 3, there'll be 3 of them. Now we come back to the beginning of the row, and there are 2 stitches there, so we need to make one more. We've got to tuck it in, give it a little tug, there we go. How you step up is, you might have your own preference. For these particular squares, I have been exploring something that I actually quite like. I slip stitch along. So where is the top V? There it is. You can see from here. I'm going to go into that top V, pull the yarn through, pull the yarn through. It's the first slip stitch. Then you can see between the groups there is a V. It's like floating, it's like a bridge. I'm going to go into that, pull through, another slip stitch. Then I'm going to go into the gap, fetch the yarn and pull it through. You can see the needle is lying flat on top of the V's. That'll be the base of my first stitch. Chain 1. That is now my first double crochet. Now when I finish this row, I will be not tucking one into there. What I will be doing is putting 2 into that same large space. That is my first group. Now I've come to the corner. My preference is to chain 1. So this first one, the trebles, there was chain 2. After that, I'll be chaining 1. When one works at it, is working on it, it'll actually seem quite odd. Not in this one so much, but you will see that the corners are quite low down, and it just seems very strange. But the finished result is pretty. So I'll just forge ahead, and I'll be making 2 groups of 3 double crochet. I'll chain 1 and work my corners under tension. Keep those stitches neat, compact. Tension here, tension there. They kind of fight against each other. 1, 2, tuck that 3rd stitch in. 3. There's another space here, and these ones on their sides I will just work under normal tension. I tend to have a fairly tight tension as it is, but the yarn is flowing. I'm not pulling hard with either the yarn hand or the hook. They're just working together. Coming up to a corner, really starting to change the angle of my hook, and the corner under tension, change the angle of my hook, chain 1, turn, whoops, put 3 of them in there, and make sure I don't miss this one here, this gaping hole when I put my fingers through because of the treble, but it's easy to miss. I roll the hook in my fingers. I like this, the design of this hook. It has a flat pad where my thumb goes. So that is my my base position. My thumb likes to return there. So once I've rolled and rolled and rolled to get the yarn through, my thumb returns the hook to that base position. And even with the foam, I can still feel it through. It's perfect for me. Just miss that gap. Oops. Coming into the corner, starting the tension already. These trebles, or to me anyway, they're loose and floppy. I don't like it under my fingers. I don't like the feel of them. Whoops. This is the last corner. I tend to get a little bit excited because then there's the last rows with that the treble. The last stitch of the treble under my fingers. It's a little, not really a knot. Get that sorted. recount 1, 2, 3, tuck it in nicely so you get a little pull so it really fits into that stitch there, like a little space. Don't forget this gap. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the last group, now there's different ways of finishing off the color. I have been trying different ones. Normally I would cut it off and pull it through, and that is what I do when I on the last row, so that I can create the perfect V, which then becomes invisible. But because I'll be adding another color on here, I have been exploring with the slip stitch. So going into the top V, I slip stitch, the next one I slip stitch, and into the next one I slip stitch. You can go one more if you want. These will be actually tucked away underneath the next row. Cut a long tail and pull it through. I'll make the next row in another video. So what I will do in this video is finishing off the tails, just to show how it's done. If you watched the previous video, well, you will know, but if you haven't, then I will just re-demonstrate. If you know how to do it, then you don't have to watch. So I have pulled it through, and I really need to work away at this little section here. So I'm going to go back into the hole. There we go. Now it's tucked away. The next group over that will cover that up. But on what this is called the wrong side, but I still want it to be beautiful, I just need to make sure that it's firmly anchored. There will be more stitches covering this up. I want it to be nicely anchored. Yes, that is my stomach. It's not hungry, it's just digesting. I unravel the yarn as I go. It'll keep raveling up again. So I want to get to that worm there, and there's a big worm here. I'm going to go down, following the makeup of the stitches. Go through this one here and into the worm, as I call it, where there are a group of stitches. Keep on opening it up, keep unraveling, keep unraveling. As I go through with my sharp pointed tapestry needle, it's very important that I use a sharp one. The darning needle does not, darning is blunt nosed, it does not catch all the fibers, it does not break the stitches open. I want to break the stitches open, really get into the fibers. I hold where I've come from so it's not going to pull and distort it. But as it unravels, it becomes annoying. But I want as many fibers to catch each other as possible. I don't want this to stay as a solid lump. I want it to open up. As I said in the previous video, if this was fine baby work, then I would work away one ply at a time. There's 3 plies in here. I would open up those plies, and with a very thin needle, I have more of these, but they have in different sizes, I will work away each ply a different direction. Go back up. I can go back into that worm. It has to be that when you've worked in so many different directions, there's a rule of 3, work in 3 different directions at least. But if you pull on this, it mustn't pull. So see, it still tugs a bit. You can still see there, see? If I tugged, it was still coming up. I don't want that. Normally I wouldn't tug, I just know. Don't want to distort it. But you have to get to the point where you tug on it. If you tugged on it, it will absolutely not move anything. And yes, it takes longer to do this, it takes time. But the end result is that your work will not come undone when you use it. It will not come undone when you wash it. All those hours and hours of love and dedication put into your work will be lost if you wash it and it falls apart. What a shame. I just keep on going until I have no tail left. Very happy with that. There's no way that all this way around like that it will come loose. I'll leave this one as a guide, cut it off afterwards. So now here we have the slip knot that we made. As you can see, a couple of different ways of working away that. A couple of different options. If you want to, you can go through this hole here and come out the other side, like that. Or, which I do prefer, is I work into the undercolor is blue. Work into the previous row, catch some of the fibers. Nothing, you can't see anything in the front. And I pull it through. It's not obvious in the front. And then I will come down again. Because what I'm trying to do is to work that knot into place. So that under no circumstances will it unravel. Even going through the knot if possible. There's a bit of a tug involved. Not as beautiful a finish, but I like it because it really does anchor that knot into place. Coming through, catching the row before, and now I will go up. Sorry, showing a little bit in the front, and my finger can feel if it's showing a bit in the front. So I'll do that again. Now, even though there's a back and a front to this work, as I tend to, normally my granny squares are reversible, I try and make it so that you cannot see where I've worked away the yarn. Okay, go down to this worm. Now I'm just working away the yarn. I've secured that knot. Trying to get to the big ones here. Keep on going. Careful not to pull too tight, but at the same time you want to get the yarn in, but you don't want to distort the work. Almost takes as long to work the yarn away as it does to actually crochet it. If you're only working in one color, like the green one, then this process will only be done once per granny section. If you change colors every row, then there are a lot of ends to be worked away. Try and get up to that worm, just catch a little bit of the blue. I want to get up to that worm for the last piece of this tail. Sometimes I have to put it into the worm and then thread it. Not quite. Okay. I have a little thing, but I have a magnet in there. Very, very, very happy with that. Now what I can do is I can leave them here so that when I work the next one, I'll just balance it out by putting it in the opposite direction. It's not imperative, but I just do like to balance it out so I get all the fat worms in one place. So there we go. The next video will be on the next color. Thank you for watching. Bye.